Right, so good afternoon, everybody. We will kick off because it's bang on 1:30. Welcome, my name is Charlotte Horrobin. I'm the Region Director in the Midlands and the East of England for Make UK, and I'm delighted to be joined by a number of my colleagues today, but also our West Midlands Chairman, Peter Davies. Today we'll be running this in a webinar format, so please, as we go along, if you've got questions, do pose them. We'll do our very best to answer them via the chat as we go, and if there are any outstanding questions, the team will do their best to follow up with them. So please don't be shy. If you've got something to ask of the team, do come forwards. Now, in any time of economic turbulence, young people are often disproportionately affected. And our members really came to us in the autumn as the Kickstart scheme was announced and asked Make UK to think about how the manufacturing sector could make sure that we could offer a route and an opportunity to kickstart these young people's careers, but also in normal times, skills is the biggest challenge that we often hear from our members. So it made sense that manufacturers had the opportunity to reach out to the talent that is coming through and to make sure that we had a pipeline of young, enthusiastic people wanting to play a really vital role as part of the manufacturing sector, and also find themselves hopefully in a very rewarding, well-paying and highly skilled career. So to begin with today, I'm really pleased that Peter Davies, our West Midlands Chair, but his main day job is running a manufacturing firm. So Pete is the Chief Executive Officer of James Lister and Sons in the Black Country. And Pete's going to kick us off today and just explain their experience of engaging with the Kickstart scheme with Make UK and how his Kickstarters are playing a really important role in their business. So Pete, thank you for joining us, and I'll hand over to yourself.
Thank you, Charlotte. Well, as you just said, Charlotte, I think even in normal times, when we discuss as the West Midlands Regional Advisory Board of Make UK, we almost always, in every meeting, talk quite a lot about how to bring young people into manufacturing and engineering and skills and all those related issues. So, you know, we're all quite passionate about these issues, but it does take a lot of time and effort and indeed money for individual businesses to make any headway. And obviously, as we all know, the manufacturing sector has been hit pretty hard by the pandemic. And even as we see a slow recovery to volumes, in most cases, financial constraints remain a significant issue. And that's why a scheme such as Kickstart provides a very welcome opportunity, which in our business, Listers, we've taken advantage of. So just very briefly, we are, Listers is an engineering supplies and services business based in the West Midlands, focusing on industrial consumables, hydraulics and tube manipulation. And we've been around for 147 years and we've got 100 people. But we do have quite a lot of roles in the business that don't require, at least initially, people to come in with an engineering background. So things like warehouse work or delivery drivers. And it's those types of jobs that we took the view that we could bring in some young people, initially 3 young people. In fact, they've all happened to all been young men, although I'm hoping that as we move forward, we might find some young ladies as well. But we've taken 3 young people on through the Kickstart scheme. And as Charlotte said, when the scheme initially started, actually you had to take at least 30 people on. Now, most companies, including ourselves, couldn't do that. So Make UK established themselves as a gateway organisation, so we jumped on that chance, and that's really made the process very easy to take these young people on. And our motivation has been twofold, really. We are a family business, and we do put a high value on our social responsibilities. So we did really see this as a good chance to give some young people some experience in the world of work and hopefully a job at the end. But to be honest, it's also to help ourselves, because if we can train some people up now, as we see a recovery in our customers' demand continuing, we'll be ready with, you know, some pre-trained staff to respond to it. In our case, it's also true to say we've got quite an ageing workforce, so bringing in some youngsters will help us refresh the scheme a little. And my final sort of opening comment, I just wanted to mention that 2 of the managers in our business who joined the company 35 years ago through a YTS scheme, those of you of a certain age will remember those letters, and Kickstart's quite similar to that scheme. So, you know, who knows, we might have just taken on some of our managers of the future. So that's sort of an introduction of how we got into it. Do you want to ask any specific, Charlotte?
I've got a few questions, Pete, as you know, that I'd like to press you on. And I think one of the things we've got to remember is these are people's lives, they're real people, and this will be extremely meaningful for them, you giving them the opportunity. Can you give us a bit of a flavour? What are your three Kickstarters like as people?
Well, as you might expect, they're all quite different. A couple of them are a little quiet. The other ones are a little bit more outgoing. Although I have to say, they all seem to have more confidence than I did at their age, but that seems to be normal in these times. But they're all keen. They're all very interested to learn, and they all genuinely seem to see this as an opportunity to make a good start in the world of work. We have had the odd absence day, and I think it's down to us to work together with them so that they do understand the responsibilities as well as the benefits of being in employment. But, you know, no real issues at all. I met up with them all last week and had quite a good chat with them and asked them if any of them had got any concerns. And one of them did say that it didn't seem fair that they would work for 6 months on the scheme and there was no job guaranteed at the end. And I actually was quite pleased by that kind of question, because it does show a genuine hunger to get a long-term job. And you know, I gave him the answer that if he performs well, our serious intention is to give them jobs at the end. So yeah, I mean, it is quite early days for their real characters to come out. Two of them have only been with us for 2.5 weeks. The other a little bit longer. So yeah, ask me again in a couple of months, Charlotte.
And how have you inducted them, Pete? What did their first few days with James Lister look like?
So I mean, really, it's a little bit different in these current times with COVID restrictions. So they've had to obviously, first of all, be trained on how we operate a COVID-safe workplace, and you know, get used to keeping their distance, following the one-way systems we've got, wearing masks in certain circumstances, and they've spent quite a lot of time going through some of the initial training, like manual handling and that sort of thing, sometimes being shown by more experienced colleagues, sometimes actually sitting in front of a screen and going through some online training with us, but progressively spending more and more time actually doing a job under supervision, of course, initially. So yeah, I mean, not that different to normal, but just a little unusual, where people are, you know, kind of physically helping them do things in the sense of touching them and in the way that you might normally.
Thanks, Pete. And just to help our audience today to demystify the whole process, could you just explain how you went through the recruitment process? How did that work?
Yeah, so we sort of identified the job roles and sent to Venetia and her colleagues a job description, basically, quite a simple job description, and then got some CVs that came through via the DWP to us. We had about, I think about 50 CVs that we had a look through, selected. I have to say, you know, most of them were relevant. There were a few where people wanted to be professional photographers, which we couldn't really offer them. So we obviously selected the 6 people initially that we felt kind of, at least their aspirations fitted the sort of opportunities we could give them. And we interviewed them by phone or by Zoom meetings initially, and got that down to 3 because we'd agreed that we would take three people on, and then had physical, you know, meetings, socially distanced, of course, in our facilities, and it went through from there. So yeah, quite. Some people have said that the process is a little bit slow, and it did take a while to begin with, but I think that was a lot to do with the fact that we were quite early on in the scheme, and everybody in the whole process, probably DWP, Mate UK, was getting used to how it all works. So, but you know, once we got to the point of getting some CVs through, I think probably from that point to taking them on was a matter of about 3 to 4 weeks. So really, really quite quick. Yeah, all good.
Thank you, Peter. And one last question before we move on to our subsequent speakers. How have your existing workforce engaged with your Kickstarters? What's their sentiment about you bringing these young people into the business?
Very positive. I mean, you know, as you know, we did have to make some redundancies right in the depths of the bad times. So, you know, there's that in the background, but we've spent a lot of time talking to all of our staff about, you know, how we're trying to move the business forward, and they really do. And indeed, we talked to them before we actually went through the Kickstart process. So they were all very involved in it and understood what we were trying to achieve, and they're all very positive about it and see the need to bring some youngsters in and to give them the opportunity. So yeah, it has been very well received, actually.
That's super, Pete. Thank you very much. And please, if you've got any further questions for Pete, do pop them into the chat and we'll make sure that we can answer as many of those as possible. Now, hopefully, as many of you know, the power of Make UK is not only our fantastic network of manufacturers, but also our really strong connections into government. So we're delighted today to welcome the Minister for Employment, Mims Davies MP. So may I hand over to yourself, please?
Thank you, Charlotte, and it was lovely to hear Pete's experience, and thank you so much for Peter for you giving the opportunity to young people and being part of Kickstart. And I know we had a kind of wonderful, rich amount of jobs coming through the door very early on, and that was wonderful. So we've had to, you know, Secretary of State has said at various points in the last year we've been sort of going down the track and building the track as we go. So we're a little bit like that at the start of Kickstart. So thank you for bearing with us in terms of giving opportunities to young people. So, and thank you to Make UK for inviting me to talk about Kickstart. Make UK have been already a really fantastic partner to the DWP in terms of implementing the scheme. They're a really crucial gateway representing employers to give the chance to already 350 young people that opportunity to start to build their career. And I'm really thrilled to be with you today to talk about how Kickstart can help more employers, whilst always focusing on what else it does, which is it transforms the lives of young people. And it's been a real pleasure to speak to some of our early recruits. And it's so good to know that so many employers from across the manufacturing sector are here today to understand more about the scheme. And I hear that so far a few of you have already applied to Kickstart. And with that in mind, I'll just say a little bit more, an overview in regard to the scheme. Now, it launched on the 2nd of September as part of the government's wider plan for jobs, the announcements that the Chancellor made in July. So we had a really busy summer building Kickstart and getting ready to launch this £2 billion jobs fund to create hundreds of thousands of high quality 6-month roles. And these are aimed at those aged 16 to 24 who are on universal credit and are most at risk of long-term unemployment. And the aim of the scheme is to support young people and employers and subsidise those additional jobs and get that really important first foot on the employment ladder. And if we think back to maybe that first person, first opportunity, who opened that first door for us? How important was it for our networks and our next opportunities? And we know it's young people who've been most impacted by the pandemic, that handbrake going on the economy. Many people have just not had that opportunity to graduate, to finish college, to, you know, have that moment and to really think about what's next. It's been a really difficult time. So this scheme is key. And part of this scheme is really important. It's the employability side of it as well, that many young people just haven't had that opportunity to learn those basic skills. And one of the things that struck with me with the employers that we've started to talk to about their experience is many of the people they've met and are now part of their businesses, they would never have looked at in any other way, that they're local, that they are fresh eyes, that they bring that new energy, bundle of energy, and really do bring the opportunity of that new voice into the business. And the opportunity for 6 months now for a young person to acquire those really key work skills and be in a position for the future job market and what the prospects are next. So that's what Kickstart is all about. And I know that Make UK have been making real strides in terms of support for young people. They've developed their own app to help young people to act within their group and get to link up, and employers can continue to offer these placements. So if you're thinking, I'm not quite ready now, I'm still getting over tears and lockdowns and goodness knows what else, please do be aware that young people can start on the final Kickstart placements in December this year. So you don't have to be ready tomorrow or in 6 weeks. It can be, you know, in the summer, in the autumn, or by December. So we'll have people finishing this scheme next summer. So the scheme is a really important opportunity to bring those new people into the workforce. Manufacturing is absolutely vital part of our economy. We need more young people trained in the skills, in the specialisms, having the energy and the interest in the sector to make sure we get a really important, strong future, and that we move out of this handbrake that's been on the economy and into a fantastic recovery. Now, as of the end of February, out of the over 30,000 plus advertised vacancies, over 1,000 were in manufacturing. Now, this is good, but I think we can do much better, and that's what today is about. So please do think about being part of this scheme and boosting the opportunities for manufacturing. It's a sector with real promise, but of course, as we heard from Peter, it's a sector that's really felt the impact of the pandemic. So that's why I'm at pains to say, if it's not today or tomorrow, please, maybe in the few weeks and months, think about this. Now, as of January, now there are about 2.3 million payroll employees in the manufacturing sector, and that number has fallen, we know, by about 100,000 since March last year. And employer numbers in manufacturing, sadly, has been falling for a while, since December 2018. But sadly, the pandemic has rapidly hastened this pace. So we know that vacancies have fallen in the second quarter of 2020. And of course, it's going to be that. And we've been in those tears and those lockdowns, and it's been really challenging. But I'm really delighted to say that we are starting to see some sharp recovery. So we're really seeing the vacancies growing. So back at the end of 2020, we had 45,000 vacancies there. And vacancies is so important, and I do say this to young people and parents and grandparents and employers that I speak to, actually reminding people there are vacancies and opportunities out there, particularly young people, because if you look at the newspapers, look at the media, it's all doom and gloom and there's nothing out there, but actually there is. It may not be your dream job. It may be something that you take on for a while, but there are opportunities out there. So we do absolutely need to work together to see the recovery in this really important, valuable sector, and that we really make sure that we see the opportunity of our economy growing, because you get back to growing, and it's so important that we continue to take our place in the world in terms of getting back to our global exports where we want to be, that we absolutely really push on these new opportunities that we've got. And among the 2 million plus employed in manufacturing, the salary is pretty good. It's on average around £34,000. And I think if you say to a young person right now, do some Kickstart, and before you know it, you could be earning that kind of money, I'm sure they'll be biting your hands off. And I'm sure those parents as well, and families who are worried about young people, can be great adverts as well for you. And the sector, we know, continues to punch above its weight, contributing to 65% of UK spend on R&D and 16% of business investment. So this is a fantastic opportunity that we need to get across to our young people. Make sure that we're a diverse, inclusive workforce, and that we all work together to overcome those challenges. And you've heard it before from government, but really so that we do build back better and stronger. And it's vital that manufacturing is part of this. So Kickstart, of course, will really help young people's confidence. It will support them in that longer term sustainable work. And we do know you might not have that long-term sustainable work for them, but the fact that they've had that opportunity, that network, that confidence, that ability to do something as we move out of this pandemic, that's brilliant. So don't worry if you're not quite sure what the end goal looks like right now. That's the opportunities and the wraparound support is crucial. And this, alongside our roadmap for easing, is vital, so that young people really do feel that they've got some fantastic opportunities to progress. So we've got 150,000 jobs now for young people who, as I say, have been hardest hit by the pandemic. Despite the COVID-related restrictions and obviously sort of having to juggle vacancies and where you can start and what's going on and making sure that young people can start in a COVID-safe environment, over 6,000 young people have started their jobs since November, and we are actively promoting roles to be filled by work coaches of over 50,000. So that's what we need our young people to know, that these kind of amazing opportunities are out there. So whether it's with manufacturing and Make UK, I know there are jobs out there working with llamas. In the chocolate factories, you can work in football, golf, you can work in roofing. There's a fantastic array of opportunities, and we really need to get that message out to young people that actually you've probably got a better opportunity through Kickstart to be part of new and exciting sectors, because employers are really thinking about their workforce and what they can give back to young people. So please join that array of employers who are making it possible for people to get that start. And again, as I say, think back to your start. What were you doing? I had an array of first jobs: yogurt factory, little chef, selling mobile phones and pagers, you name it, working in a bakery. But all of these gave me the confidence and the opportunities that led on to something next. That smell of yogurt and metal will never quite leave my mindset, but very lucrative shifts and helped me pay off my student loan. So much appreciated. And that jaunty little hat from Little Chef, always like that, and the bow tie. So for me, it's really lovely to join you and hear from the other speakers. And we'll follow up this event with the Kickstart information pack, which will tell you all you need to know about applying for the scheme. You'll have a local link to your job centre. We've arranged for a local contact to introduce themselves after this. So if you want to be part of this, we can make it really easy for you to apply. And we really look forward to continuing to work together over the coming months as we push on to securing a really positive future for your sector, our young people, our great country, and doing this all together is key. So thank you, everyone, for letting me join you this afternoon. Thanks.
That made me smile particularly. One of my first roles actually was chasing around sheep, and I've still got the border collie to prove that life experience, which was very valuable. And thank you, Minister, for such a positive plea and a very clear call to action. And thank you for joining us this afternoon. So next, I'm delighted to introduce our Senior Campaign and Skills Policy Manager, my colleague Bhavina Bakada. Bhavina, I know, has some very detailed thoughts about how we can make this a success, not just for now and supporting those very disproportionately disadvantaged young people, but actually how do we make sure that they've got a really strong future, and how do we make sure that manufacturing's got the pipeline of talent that it needs to grow? So Bhavina, over to you, please.
Thanks, Charlotte. Speaking of first jobs, I'm a true Londoner, and my first job was the next 5 a.m. sale in the mornings. It was not fun, but a good learning curve. But no, it's great to be here. It's been really good to hear from the Minister, but also Peter a little bit earlier talking about the scheme and how that's supported his business. I just wanted to touch on why I think the scheme has been one of the more successful initiatives launched during the pandemic, why that's the case, and what we can actually learn from that as we think about recovery in the next 6, 12, 18 months. And as Charlotte, as you alluded to a little bit earlier, skills is one of those priorities manufacturers always talk about. It's skills, 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 and that was even pre-COVID. But like lots of businesses, they've obviously been operating in quite a challenging environment. We spoke about it a little bit earlier, but over half have made redundancies, the same have made the same amount of staff furloughed, and we've seen almost a third of our members pause apprenticeship training. And that's really worrying because skills are the lifeblood of manufacturing, and what they really want to do is get that back up to the normal 80% we see of recruiting apprentices and bringing young blood into their businesses. So in that context, I guess the myriad of different initiatives that have been available, whether it's the apprenticeship incentives, the lifetime skills guarantees, actually the Kickstart scheme has been a real success, and part of that is because of gateways. Initially, about 3/4 of manufacturers told us they wouldn't use the Kickstart scheme, and only 1/4 would if they had an intermediary to support them and handhold them through that process. And I think it's really pleasing that DWP listened. We had those gateways, we had those intermediaries put in place, which really helped businesses through that process. Venetia will obviously go into a little bit more detail about the success of the program, but I think we've got almost 100 businesses involved now. And that's brilliant because actually at a time where manufacturers, both resources and time is stretched, that support and that hand-holding is incredibly, incredibly important. So it's just a really good example of that kind of co-creation between government and business to kind of get those young people into businesses. So what I guess we can take away and learn from this is that actually there's a really key role here for existing bodies, whether it's stakeholders, trade associations, to actually facilitate in that matching of demand and supply in that skills space. Because whether it's the challenges that we face immediately around COVID or in the next 5-10 years around climate change and greater digitalization, it will need those existing bodies to come together to kind of co-create those solutions. But what I would say is that, yes, the scheme hasn't been without its challenges. We had a few teething problems at the beginning. There are definitely green shoots appearing. And when we have that momentum, it's important that we can build on it. So the minister talks about how we can bump up the 1,000. I've got a few ideas, so I'll share them now. But really the focus is, if we're thinking about recovery in 6-12 months' time, how can we bump up those numbers to support those young people? So the first thing I would say is extend it beyond 2021. Actually, they're a fantastic pathway into not only apprenticeships and permanent employment, but T-levels. They roll out in our sector in 2022. And if we really want to encourage young people to not just go down the academic route of education, but explore vocational and technical training, how can we tee up the end of the Kickstart scheme so that it rolls into the T-level scheme, which rolls out in our sector in 2022? You've then got a clear pathway of training for young people and a clear route into the manufacturing sector. The second thing I would consider is something around bringing forward those incentive payments, which can help with those upfront costs of delivery. We know that cash flow is a challenge for manufacturers, and it will be as demand picks up slowly. So what can we do to kind of support those businesses who might face a bit of challenge at the moment, but with a little bit of cash up front, bringing that payment up front, it could ease that transition. And the third thing I would say, keep it focused on young people. We've touched on it today. They have been disproportionately hit, and it makes sense that there's a clear route for those young people into training and employment. Other schemes, such as the Lifetime Skills Guarantee, can be extended to level 4 or 5, and I think that can help support with the upskilling and retraining piece for older workers. But having a dedicated route which young people can go into, which could lead to T-levels, apprenticeships, or permanent employment, is really, really vital. So I guess in the weeks and months ahead, Make UK is going to be fleshing a lot of this out and what it will look like in practice through our National Manufacturing Skills Task Force. So that's been created with us, the likes of TUC and the sector skills body Ingenuity. And we'd be delighted for the Minister as well as DFE colleagues to join us in that work, and we'd be happy to share what we've done today. But I think the key is that this is a real opportunity to fix what has always been quite a contentious issue for manufacturers' skills. And now we've got momentum, we've got awareness, let's really capitalise on that. So thank you. I'll hand back to you, Charlotte.
Thank you very much, Bavina, and some great suggestions and points raised there. So next, I'm really pleased to introduce Make UK's recruitment manager. And personally, if I wanted to inspire a young person, I could think of nobody better. So Venetia, may I hand over to you just for you to offer your practical guidance and talk our audience through today what Kickstart means to Make UK and how we're supporting the sector.
Sorry, thank you for that, Charlotte. No pressure there. I hope I can infuse you all to be getting involved with what we're doing. So we started as, obviously, we're a gateway. So currently got some really good numbers that we're really pleased and impressed with. As we discussed earlier, some numbers, we've got 385 current vacancies that are in the process with 89 current employers, which is brilliant. Had some great news today. We've actually had 8 successful bids since we've been running this. And we're really proud that at the moment, all of our bids have gone through, which means we've got more employers we're working with, more grants available, more people we can help. So what was the aim of us, what we wanted to do? We are recruitment specialists. We've worked with people for many, many years, apprentices, traineeships, delivered lots of technical training. And obviously we're specialists in what we do, which is employability. So we looked at this scheme and we thought it's something we really think needed to be there. We've worked with quite a few companies. Obviously, Peter works with us and other companies that are on this call now. We want to make sure that we provide the service to support. So as a gateway, we took it on ourselves that we would literally, the £1,500 we gave back to the employer. And we said to the employer, use this to train, upskill and support the individual. So from that, the only thing that we've actually asked about spending with us initially is we've provided an app. Now, we've worked with a local company that obviously have supported us. We've put a lot of investment into building the app, and the app actually works around employability skills. Now, we're trying to encourage mentors within the companies as well as the individuals to use the app. The app has got 3 key areas. First key area is employability, which goes through stuff like CVs, interview techniques, dealing with awkward conversations, timekeeping, attendance. It's also got an element of well-being, which is so important at the moment as well. You know, we've got people who haven't been in work for, say, a year or haven't travelled on public transport that we're now encouraging to come back into the workforce. And we're encouraging them to travel. We're encouraging them to go into an environment that we're all finding difficult to get used to. You know, we're wearing masks. We're keeping our distance. You know, we're not doing what we did previously where we're doing face-to-face interviews. We're doing lots of Zoom calls, Skype, etc. So we just wanted to make sure that the individuals were supported from day one. We work closely with the employers. So as part of what we do as a scheme is we ask for information like copies of CVs. We ask for training plans. We look at induction that's being put into place. And what we've actually done is, as an organisation, we have got a wealth of training that we can offer as well across the board. So we look at the individual and the role they go into. Based on the role they go into, we say we can offer e-learning, we can offer face-to-face training, and the app can also do some of that training to support the business. So we're involved from the start. We speak to our employees when they come forward and actually get them to initially fill an application form in. That application form we then put into the grant. So we write the grant application for all of our employers, which if you've actually gone and done that yourself, it can be quite a wordy document. I think it's 3,000 words. So obviously the one good thing is, because we've got this great network within Make UK, and we do have the voice of manufacturing, and we do have companies that will say and represent us, we can actually put that into a bid. So when you're a smaller company with a couple of opportunities, you will go in with a group of other employers with the chance of getting the grant authorised. We did have teething problems, and it did take a while for it to first get going. But obviously now we're in a situation where, with the time that we put in the application, we're looking between 4 to 8 weeks for approval. So from approval stage then is when we work with the employer to put together the job description. Now the job description, we try and get it to look as good as it can. And we try and encourage it to be open to anybody. And we'll work with the employer and work with DWP to ensure that we've got the right information. Then we put the vacancy forward to DWP, and that's when we start doing a lot of networking, as in Make UK as a company. We work with the local DWP advisors, and we like to introduce them to the employer as soon as we can. So we'll be copied into CVs and we'll talk about how applications are going through. We'll talk about if they're struggling with applications, because we do have some areas with it UK wide. So we've got some areas that we've had some of our customers that have struggled with getting the right candidates. So we've looked at the vacancies again, we've changed words on the vacancies. We've said, does it need to be as much information, or do we make it a little bit more, specific to certain areas within the business? Then what we do is we work with the work coaches who then target their group of people in the area that they're working with to try and get the best applicants and the best candidates over. We then leave it to the employer to do the actual interviews and the selection of who they want to take on. But at that point, if support's needed, we're there and available. So if a company says, we're taking on quite a volume and we're struggling to do the recruitment, how can you help? We'll help with that as well. We do a regular newsletter every 2 weeks. And during the time of obviously this working and starting for us, we've tried to put hints and tips in. So within that, we've looked at how to fill a good application form in, a good vacancy template in, how to then, what happens when you start getting applications through from DWP? How does this work? How do we get our grant? How does payment start to work? We've also this week put some case studies together, which we've obviously shared then with everybody. And the case studies have come directly from our Kickstarters. So it's their words, their experience, and how they've obviously come across and how they've found the vacancy initially, how long it's been for them to have an interview, and how it's working out now. We're actually in the process at the moment of taking 2 of our own Kickstarters on, because we really feel we want to obviously grow within our team and we want to look at people out there. We need new ideas. We want to hear what they've got to say, and we want to make sure that we're offering it to the right people. When we actually put together our app, we went into our traineeship group and we said to them, they're 16 to 24-year-olds, what do you want to see? Tell us which graphics you like. And they actually picked the graphics for our app. We said to them, would you use it? Which parts would you use? What's of interest to you? How do you feel about it? They actually loved it because they could do it whenever they wanted. They could do it on the bus, they could use it at home, and they could pop onto something around wellbeing without it being made official. Help, I need some help. Now, the app works with reports that come through to myself on a monthly basis. And during that time, I can look at if there's any particular areas of concern. So if somebody keeps going on to a timekeeping part of the app, I can speak to the employer and say, when you're next reviewing, is there an issue? Are they struggling to get to work on time? Are they struggling to get on the right bus, to get to work on time? And then the person that's carrying out the review can actually talk about this during the review and support the individual if it is down to that. We also can set targets within the app. So we can say within the first 4 months of the person starting with them, we want to see an improvement on their CV, because ideally we want to see training that they've attended whilst out at the placement, and we want to see the actual work placement on their CV, up-to-date work experience, so that they can show moving forward, and hopefully if they don't stay with that current employer, they can move on into sustainable employment. So we do offer a service to anybody. And what we would say is we've worked with a couple of companies who decided to go on their own. So I supported them with the bid writing, and they've actually been successful and gone on their own. And that was a couple of our members who wanted to try it, but were a bit worried about filling in the application form and everything. So we're there for everything, really, is all I can say. Our passion is to ensure that we grow people, individuals. We're offering employability training as well. We're looking to, and obviously at the end of this, we're hoping that people either go into an apprenticeship within manufacturing, gain a sustainable job within manufacturing, and really open up the doors to manufacturing, because we've got that skills gap and we need to ensure that we can support and fill this. So we didn't take the grant money and say, we're having it, we're using it, we're telling you what you need. We actually spoke to our employers and said, what do you need? What sort of training do you want? We can offer as much training as needed, or they can actually find their own training within. So that's the support really we've offered out.
Thank you, Venetia. And I did promise everybody that you would leave them enthused, as you always do. I wonder, with the employers that have come forwards, I can imagine that there's perhaps a little bit of anxiety sometimes because it's a new scheme and we're in a very different world at the moment. What are the kind of concerns that you've been helping employers navigate and get over before commencing on the scheme?
Okay, I'll be honest, we've had some employers that have come to us, they've got their grant, but they're putting the vacancies on hold for a few more weeks till their businesses start to open up. Because obviously people are concerned about what we're going to happen with lockdown, especially in the West Midlands. We seem to have been in lockdown constantly for the last year. And even when we came out of lockdown, we were kind of still in a lockdown. So obviously we've had companies who've said, we still want to go ahead, but can you hold for us at the moment? We have had a few companies who've struggled with their order books. And they've said, you know, we were expecting this to be a bit quicker and we were in a better position when we first applied, but they're not walking away because they want to walk away. They're just literally saying, let's hold for now. So we do stay in touch, and we do try to keep people warm. And I have got to be honest, I've had some brilliant relationships with the DWP coaches that I'm working with now. So we do have lots of communication, and I'm constantly, can we support this employer? Can we look at what we can do? So I think it is about nurturing, it is about supporting, and I think that's what we do best, if I'm honest with you.
Thank you, Venetia. And speaking from experience, the regional board that Pete chairs, where we're joined by usually over 30 business leaders from across the West Midlands that are making things, the biggest consistent issue that we face right now is the inability to forecast and understand what future demand is. So I absolutely get those points. In terms of the additional training that you're considering bolting on and supporting employers with, are you able to share what types of themes, courses they are, or is it too early in the scheme to detect that yet?
We've actually had some training requests already. So at the moment, we're promoting coaching and mentoring. Now, coaching and mentoring is a course that we've been running for a long time and really successful for apprenticeships. So we think this will really work with Kickstart companies as well. And the reason we do that is it supports the mentor who's probably never been a mentor before. We are asking a lot of the mentors within this particular training. So obviously, we're asking people to talk to people about well-being, mental health. We're asking people to support people into a role that they've probably never done before. As we talked about earlier, some people are leaving careers and moving into something totally different. So they might not understand what is needed and required of them. So the mentor is going to be key in this. And we need to make sure that we can support our companies to support the individuals. So coaching and mentoring is a course that we do. It is a 2-day course. We have an opportunity of offering it to do it virtually or face-to-face on site here at Aston. Now, when I speak to the tutor about this, he actually thinks the face-to-face works better because you can break off into groups, you can share experience, you can talk to other people who've been mentors previously, who can actually give some sort of help and support, because we're not just dropping our Kickstarters into the business, we're actually trying to support our Kickstarters whilst in the business. We offer e-learning courses as well. So we've offered an option of e-learning courses for health and safety, e-learning courses customer service, e-learning courses for handling difficult conversations, import, export documentation, along with our other training that we do, which is across the whole of Make UK. So we're talking health and safety, we're talking kind of management training, we're talking anything we will try and support with. But I'm actually running myself some training courses on employability. So CV workshops, interview techniques, confidence and motivation, working in a team. So we're putting those together and we've got a package for those as well. We try to cover every angle really here.
And I think we've touched on it in the last 45 minutes. How important are the influencers around the young people? So the grannies, the mums, dads, you know, the significant people within the young person's life, and how do you interact with them and engage with them, Venetia?
Well, obviously we try and talk to whoever we can. So I've done quite a lot of talking with, I've been out to see Peter's Kickstarters, so I kind of got to know them. I've actually introduced them to the app. So I've given them a call and talked to them about how the app will work, talked to them about how long it takes them to get home, talked about what their family think, talked about people who are around them, how do they feel about this new opportunity. We at Make UK are very good, we're very into videoing our learners. We've got lots of clips of poor Peter smiling again. You know, I was with him the other day and he had to obviously do a video with us, and so did the Kickstarters. We want to hear from them because we want to know how they're doing. So it's not just about us working with employers. We want to get to know the Kickstarters. I've started to get to know individuals by name. They email through to me because I do make it my business to kind of get to know who they are and how we can support them. I've been out to a couple of companies recently, which is brilliant, because now we're starting to kind of be able to do that. It just makes it so much easier for us to offer support. We can talk to who will be mentoring the employers, the learners, as I say, so we can talk to them and say, what do you need? What can Make UK do for you? And I do say to Peter all the time, I'm going to go back to him, because the other day we were talking, and now he wants a couple of apprenticeships off us, but not just apprentices off us. He wants some people who've been displaced during the pandemic, and we've got them. So we're really pleased, because, we're able to talk about other opportunities and other avenues within each business every time we go out and see them.
Thank you,
And
Venetia.
sorry.
No, you carry on.
I just want to say one thing, because we understand the opportunities that are out there within manufacturing, and we actually do have a centre that I work at daily, as you know. I'm always out there. We do a learner voice. I'm always asking them for their opinions. Anything we do here, we go to them and say, what do you think? Because I can sit here saying, we're amazing, we can do this, but it's, can we do it, and is it feasible? And we know the industry, so I think that's how it works for us.
Thank you, Venetia. We've one last question has come in from our panel, and then I'm just going to move around our speakers today for some concluding remarks. So, Venetia, what's the experience level like of the young people that are coming through? Have they got a degree? Have they ever had a job before? Have they perhaps started on some sort of vocational qualification and that's stopped for whatever reason? Can you give us a flavour of what the applicants are like, please?
Really mixed. So, for instance, I had the pleasure of meeting Rosie the other day at one of our other companies, IPU, and she basically came from theatre. So she was working behind the scenes doing the lighting in theatre. And obviously, since the pandemic, she's had to change her career altogether. And now she's working in a social media role. And obviously, she's then in that situation where she's had to take a career change. I've had companies who've had graduates contact them. We've had companies who've had graduates who've got a job working in a pizza bar till they can find the right role. So it's really mixed, very, very, very mixed. We've got people career changing. We've got people first jobs. We've got people who've been unemployed. So Peter, I'll go back to your group. We've got one that was unemployed for 3 months. Then we've got 2 that were unemployed for a year. And when I asked them why they were struggling, they just couldn't find the right role, or they were dropping into temporary work, and it felt like it was constant temporary work they were never going to move out of. So obviously they are very mixed, a real mixed group of people that are coming through to us.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Venetia. And as one last plug, you've got 76 people here. If they all went on to take on at least a Kickstarter, but perhaps follow Pete's lead and take on several, how do they go about doing that with Make UK?
Okay, so you contact us initially. We've got our own, obviously, email, which is kickstart@makeuk.org. But we will actually email after as well, as somebody said earlier. We're going to be sending some information through after. So obviously, any questions, please feel free to ask us then.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Venetia, and thank you for your time this afternoon. I'm going to go to Bhavina then first for our concluding remarks and any thoughts, points that you wanted to raise finally, Bhavina.
Just to say, I think this is a really exciting opportunity, not just for us as Make UK, but just as the manufacturing sector. The Minister spoke a little bit about how we want to sort of build back better and rebuild some of our industrial base in the UK. And this feels like a really good opportunity, because there are people from completely different backgrounds who probably would never have considered the manufacturing sector to now work here and just dip their toe. Suddenly you're going to get a diversity in terms of thought, background, gender, race, all these different people suddenly realizing how exciting manufacturing is. Me and Charlotte and Venetia have been saying, and Peter have been saying this for ages, but suddenly we've got that opportunity. So it's really, how can we capitalize on it, build on it, and as we look towards recovery in the next sort of 6, 12, 18 months, just making the most of this opportunity. That's really it. So yeah, green shoots all around, really.
Really positive concluding remarks. Thank you, Bhavina. And Peter, can I come to you for your thoughts, words of encouragement, and anything else that you wanted to add, please?
Quickly, I'll say three things. First of all, the young chap that has been with us the longest, about 6 weeks now, we've been so impressed with him that actually, instead of just doing the 25 hours that the government fund us for, this week he's actually moving to pretty much full time, and he's spending his afternoons working in another department now because we want to train him up in that as well. So, you know, we really have a view that we're going to be able to offer him a job at the end. So that's been extremely encouraging. I'm going to, since we've got the Minister on the call, I'm going to reiterate what Vina said and say that, you know, I understand the government have thrown loads of money at loads of things and it's all been very welcome, but I think this is something that should be extended past the end of the year because, you know, this is, of everything that we could possibly do, getting young people into manufacturing, you know, obviously we're all going to say this because we're all passionate about it, but this is a route that is working. So we should keep it going if there's any possible way to do that. And linked to that, I'd say to anyone on the call, you know, as Venetia said, some people have held off a little bit and they're a bit nervous, or maybe they want to wait until things are a bit better. Don't wait, just get on with it because you've got nothing to lose. Just do it. You know, I would really say it's been a good experience for us, as well as hopefully we're going to end up with, you know, some benefit for ourselves. It's really nice to do something, you know, that's hopefully helping these young people as well, even if they don't all stay with us. At least maybe we have given them, as everyone said, you know, a good start. And I think what the Minister said is absolutely right. We all remember our first jobs, you know, hopefully very fondly, and that stays with you for your whole career. So if we can give people a good start, I think that's something we should all try and do. I'll shut up now.
Very pleasant. Thank you very much, Pete. And can I take this chance just to make a very special thank you to our guest, the Minister for Employment, Mims Davies, this afternoon. And Minister, can I ask you just for your concluding remarks? I know you've very kindly drafted a letter that will be going to today's delegation, but your final thoughts, please.
Well, thank you, Peter. I mean, you make some incredible points about nothing to lose, everything to gain. And as Bhavina was saying, actually, many employers do want to be more diverse. They want to give people an opportunity, but you're so busy doing the day job, you don't always get the gift of doing that. And that is exactly what Kickstart is. To the points raised in the chat, Venetia covered a lot of them really well. I mean, you can have a 16-year-old care leaver join your company, or somebody who's, you know, heading towards 25, who's been bouncing around roles and just never got that opportunity. This is where the link between your job advert and the engagement with the work coach is really important, about, you know, what wraparound support can you offer, what sort of young person you're looking for. Be really realistic about who's out there. There are very capable people who've had a fantastic uni or educational experience. There are some young people with lots of other challenges, and what's been really good about this programme as well is there is an access to work scheme which supports people with disabilities. Kickstart will give you that ability to support somebody with disabilities. So be really realistic, as Peter just said, you know, what kind of role, what kind of experience, and actually it's a lot about that young person coming in with those open eyes and asking some of those innocent questions that can be really helpful. Peter also pointed out brilliantly that you don't have to just offer the 25 hours a week. If you want to top it up and do more, you go for it, absolutely, and please do. So those extra hours are absolutely there for you. So in terms of turnaround, if you're going through a gateway with Make UK, it should be relatively reasonably quick now. You know, I would say between 4, 6, 8 weeks at the outside. So to Peter's point, don't leave it too long. And I've had the hard squeeze on, please do extend Kickstart. You know, if, you know, I'd love to, of course. This is, you know, a dream scenario for me as Employment Minister to have something so brilliant for young people alongside our DWP youth hubs and everything that we're doing. But we are literally putting everything in to get into our commitment to 250,000 jobs. And if I'm really honest, if I said to you, you know, it's going to be here for 3 more years, then you might all hand back. And I want to get those 250,000 young people the opportunities. So I will very happily, in the spending review or any other opportunities, go to the Treasury and say, this is a huge success, give me more money and let's do more. But for me, it's really important to make a success of this and then argue that it works well. And of course, this can lead to traineeships, apprenticeships, as we heard, T-levels for the young people. I'm not prescriptive of what that outcome is for that young people. If that person's experience of just having that support, that networking, getting into a company is going to make a massive difference, that's a huge outcome for them. And actually, some other people are going to, you know, bounce very clearly into great roles very quickly because they've just needed that chance. But this is about a progression opportunity that's totally individualized for the young person and yourself. That's where our work coaches are involved. If it's not working out for you or them, we can look at something different for you. You're not kind of, quote, stuck with someone. If it's not working, we want it to work for everybody. We'll make sure we support people. So there's the email address in there. You've obviously got Venetia and all the experience that Make UK have got. You've got a really great gateway, which has already got the ear of DWP and knows how to do this. So you don't have to do it on your own. But thank you for thinking about being part of this. And up and down the land, and what we had something called the Future Jobs Fund, which came out of the previous recession. It was very much focused around sort of charities and councils and other organisations. This Kickstart programme includes all of those organisations, but has a huge amount of employers and sectors, and we're really targeting sectors. So if you haven't worked out we're targeting you today, then we're doing this all across communities, areas and sectors to really make sure we try and tackle some of those structural issues in the labour market that Bhavina was mentioning as well, so that out of this recovery we get the best ability to link into skills and opportunities. So and we're really aligning with DFE. So I would say this is a phenomenal opportunity to really do something groundbreaking. That amount of roles, given the lockdown, the tiers, the impact is huge. So let's get to the 250,000 and then let's push forward is where I'm at. But thank you everyone for the opportunity to join you this afternoon. Thank you for considering it. And as Peter said, you've nothing to lose. Go ahead and do it.
Thank you to all of our panelists, and the takeaway for me today, I think, is #GoForIt. I think that's a great phrase for the hour that you've spent with us, and thank you to our tremendous audience for joining us. Really good to see so many of you keen to explore this further. We've answered a number of questions as we've gone, but for those that are more technical, we will endeavour to make sure that you get an accurate response by email after this session, so please forgive us for not picking up those technical points during the live run, but we prefer to make sure that we're giving you the absolute facts. And you will all receive a follow-up email which will have the letter from the Minister. It will also have some very clear instructions of how to start working with Venetia and start your young people coming in and adding value to your business. And please, a personal plea for myself, do what you can, work with your local schools, work with the fantastic manufacturing and engineering related charities that exist across the UK. If we support our local communities, it really will make for better places to live. So thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye.